My name is Indira. I am 31 years old. When my husband requested a divorce, the initial thing that struck me was not the tone of his voice, not the look in his eyes, nor the growing emotional gap between us, but an unusual peace that descended upon me, a profound quiet that seemed to have been lying in wait precisely for this instant. We sat facing each other at the dining table we had chosen together long ago, the very surface where we used to chuckle over potential baby names and dream holiday ideas. Yet that night, his announcement hit like a final judgment already settled. He showed no signs of anxiety or inner turmoil. He appeared ready, even somewhat liberated, as if he had mentally practiced this exchange countless times. I believe we both realize this relationship has run its course, he stated in a controlled, measured way, sounding more like a business executive giving a presentation than a spouse ending a union. I recall gazing at him intently, hoping to spot any sign of distress or regret on his face, but nothing emerged. What he remained unaware of, what he could never have guessed, was that merely 3 months prior, my father had died, leaving me not just sorrow but an immense wealth I had kept entirely private. When my husband brought up divorce, I said nothing whatsoever about the $72 million inheritance from my deceased father. Thank goodness for that restraint, because just days afterward, he appeared, with a lawyer standing right at my doorstep. That particular realization would echo in my thoughts later like a foretelling come true, yet in that dining room moment, the secret still lay tightly guarded inside me. For weeks I had been immersed in documents, attorney consultations, and private weeping, insisting on strict confidentiality from every expert involved, not out of suspicion toward my husband at the time, but to grant myself space to absorb, to grieve, to grasp the enormity of this windfall before uttering a single word about money capable of transforming everything. And now, listening to him discuss parting ways and pursuing separate paths, I understood that my reticence had shielded me without any deliberate plan. He mentioned drifting apart, craving independence, insisting he was entitled to joy, lines that felt suspiciously refined, almost lifted from motivational literature or quietly suggested by another person. I gave occasional nods, not out of acceptance but sheer astonishment, as though observing an impostor inhabiting my husband's body. He brought up no possibility of therapy, made no effort to salvage things, displayed no obvious sorrow, only a pressing need to make the breakup official. That haste disturbed me deeply. Individuals rarely walk away from a shared existence so swiftly unless convinced a superior future lies ahead. Even so, I held my tongue. Nothing about the legacy, nothing about the restless nights following my father's burial, nothing about the turbulent feelings churning under my calm facade. Quietness turned into my defense. He likely interpreted it as fragility, maybe remorse, maybe acceptance, but it represented none of those. It was pure intuition. Over the following days, his demeanor became strangely aloof yet oddly vibrant, resembling someone already advancing into fresh territory. He accepted extended calls in private spaces, grinned at texts he swiftly concealed, and discussed logistics with unnerving precision, property, schedules, separate residences. Not a single time did he inquire about how I was managing my father's passing. Not once. That complete disregard wounded me more profoundly than the dissolution of our marriage. Sorrow exposes true nature, and his total absence from mine revealed far more than any admission ever could. Part of me yearned to challenge him, to insist on candor, to question whether another person was involved. Yet a subtler, keener instinct opted for restraint. I watched closely. I paid attention. I recalled minor incidents that now carried new weight. His recent curiosity about my money matters several months back, offhand inquiries regarding my father's holdings, the faint irritation when I sidestepped those topics. Did he possess knowledge? Had he harbored suspicions? Or was he merely weary of a spouse he viewed as offering no tactical benefit? The uncertainties swirled without end, but I maintained my poise. I committed to no agreements. I disclosed nothing. I bided my time. Because under the pain, under the shame, under the empty sorrow of witnessing my partnership disintegrate, a fresh insight was taking shape, one murmuring that this tale was far from concluded, that an essential element lingered concealed within his rush, his assurance, his conviction. And at my core, I felt that my silence, the exact quality he viewed as capitulation, was poised to become the single most impactful choice I would ever make. Several days elapsed following our discussion, but the atmosphere within our home seemed electric, resembling the tense hush preceding a tempest. My husband carried himself with an assurance that no longer suited the seriousness of his demand. He seemed unburdened, nearly elated, as though the separation represented not a bereavement but a long-desired exit route. I stayed reserved, observing, intuiting that unseen developments were progressing out of sight. When my husband requested a divorce, I remained quiet regarding the $72 million I had received from my departed father. Thank goodness I kept that to myself, because mere days later, he arrived, with an attorney at my entrance. That reality presented itself not through theatrics, but through a simple rap. Resolute. Purposeful. Impossible to ignore. I recall the precise second. Late afternoon light, the sort of warm glow that creates an illusion of serenity. Expecting perhaps a package or a visitor, I opened the door. There he was instead, my husband, the individual who had already mentally departed our shared existence, flanked by a neatly attired unknown man clutching a portfolio case. The jolt came not merely from seeing him, but from the look on his face. Deliberate, nearly victorious, devoid of any tenderness or doubt. No discomfort, no remnant of the person who used to peck my cheek before leaving for the day. Only determination, only design. We should talk about certain monetary issues, he declared, his voice disturbingly even. The attorney gave a courteous, business-like nod, treating the visit as standard procedure instead of a calculated intrusion. In that flash, all pieces fell into place with icy precision. The impatience, the practiced statements, the peculiar emotional withdrawal, none were random. He was convinced there existed something worth pursuing. He was convinced money awaited division. My discretion had not simply postponed dialogue. It had laid bare his true intention. A frigid surge of understanding swept through me. Yet beneath lay something more potent than dread, conviction. They entered, radiating the aura of individuals anticipating gain. The attorney delivered well-organized remarks concerning fair allocation, shared property, and complete disclosure of finances. The terminology sounded formal, yet the underlying message was crystal clear. They were probing. They felt certain a substantial sum existed to split. My husband kept his gaze averted from mine, concentrating on the facade of propriety being enacted nearby. That was the moment I grasped the full extent of the disloyalty. This was no spouse pursuing resolution or equity. This was someone who thought he had orchestrated his departure flawlessly, who presumed I would collapse, who anticipated entitlement to riches he had not contributed to and mourning he had never supported. The contradiction felt nearly overwhelming. If I had disclosed the windfall earlier, if I had shared it freely, if I had placed blind faith without hesitation, that encounter could have shattered me completely. But my instinctive, unintended quiet had altered the entire dynamic. I heard them out serenely while they presented their anticipated outcomes, their boldness gradually meeting my unyielding calm. When I at last responded, the atmosphere transformed. I stated with careful precision that the inheritance stood legally safeguarded, arranged well prior to our wedding, secured through safeguards they evidently had failed to foresee. I observed bewilderment cross the attorney's features, followed by unease, then the discreet withdrawal of a professional acknowledging defeat. My husband's self-assurance cracked subtly, the confidence ebbing from his stance. For the first occasion since proposing divorce, he appeared unsure, vulnerable. Yet the exchange yielded no real triumph, only a deep, sobering insight. Affection does not evaporate suddenly without cause. Devotion does not fade absent motivation. His reappearance backed by legal support was no accident. It served as validation, validation that my silence had spared me a devastation far worse than mere separation. They departed with strained civility, their initial boldness giving way to stiff, fragile decorum. The door shut, sealing away the final misconception I had held concerning the man I wed. Yet alone in the silent home, I felt no devastation. I felt renewed. I came to see that power is frequently confused with composure. Quietude is not defeat. And occasionally, the greatest transformations in life arise not from direct conflict, but from measured restraint. If this account touched you, if it brought to mind how endurance and vigilance can safeguard us in ways raw feeling never could, pause for a second to connect with this path. Subscribe to True Revenge Glory for additional narratives that uncover the concealed realities of confidence, disloyalty, and the subtle strength found in deciding to withhold words at the right time.
Craving shocking revenge, chilling horror, and jaw-dropping relationship drama? If you love revenge, horror, and jaw-dropping relationship stories straight from Reddit, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Reddit Tales Time, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story. More twists, more drama, more tales, coming up next.